Hi, I'm Rachel and welcome to our film on helping parents to read with children. It's not always an easy thing to do, so let us give you some tips on how to get started and how to share books really well. You really are your child's most important and enduring teacher. The influence you have over your child is massive compared to anything else, even school. In fact, some experts think that 92% of learning at this age happens outside of the school environment. That tells you how important you are. Children will copy everything you do, not everything you say or everything you ask them to do, but they're mimicking you all the time. Therefore, it's really important that you model reading behaviour as much as you can in front of them. Now, none of us would choose to sit down with a good book when we've got children to look after. It doesn't make sense. We need to be relaxed. But you could read a magazine or a form to fill in or something else like that in front of them. Now, there's a huge difference between supporting your child to read their own reading books from school and things like that compared to bedtime reading. Bedtime reading is an essential part of a child's routine every day. It's an important part of their sleep routine and getting ready to wind down and go to bed, but it's also a really important part of your relationship with them. My children are grown up now, but they can still tell you about the times we read and the books that they read, and they'll all crack up laughing when we talk about Noggin Sploggin and other books that they loved. So that's a really important part of your day, to read to your children without putting any pressure on them. We also need children to absolutely love books and love stories, and while you're reading to them, you are massively supporting the growth of their vocabulary, the amount of words that they know and understand, and that's crucial. Now, this video is about the time that you spend with your child teaching reading skills. So we're not talking about bedtime reading or bedtime stories. We're talking about the books that children will read that are about the right level for them to have a go at reading themselves. And so we're going to talk about emotional aspects of reading and then the more mechanical aspects of reading. And I hope you'll get some good tips from that. Let's start by looking at the emotional or the behavioural aspects of learning to read. To start with, reading needs to be a really happy, positive experience for your child. It can't be about fighting, arguing, frustration or anything else. It needs to be a time where you set everything else aside, give your child a cuddle, give them your full attention, manage distractions so that the TV, your phone are switched off, and that your child knows that they are the most important thing to you in that moment in time. The brain doesn't work well under stress, so you're not going to get much learning done if the child is feeling frustrated themselves or stressed, or if they feel got at because you're upset. So it really is important that they are as relaxed as possible. If you are stressed about your child's reading, if you're anxious about their stage of development, if you feel that their sibling learned faster than them or anything like that, go and ask your teacher about it. The child's teacher will know their reading inside out, they'll know their levels, they'll know how well they're doing, that they're progressing or not, and they're the ones to put your anxiety onto, not your child. Children learn at different rates. You'd never go into a shoe shop, would you, and ask for a pair of shoes for a 5-year-old? Then they need to be measured because every child grows at different times, different rates, different sizes, and one size won't fit all. Now, 10 minutes often, most days, is much more effective than reading for 1 hour on one day. Children can only concentrate for a few minutes. If they're 5, it's said that they can only concentrate very hard for the number of minutes that match their age plus 2. So if you've got a 5-year-old, they can concentrate hard for 7 minutes. So quit while you're ahead. Always stop while the child's enjoying the experience. Don't wait till they've had enough. And that will leave a really good taste in the mouth for when they want to come back to you the following day. Use targeted praise. Don't just say they're wonderful and marvellous all the time. Tell them why you're really excited and happy with them. Tell them that you're really pleased that they've made such a lot of effort, that they're trying really hard even though it's difficult, that they are having a go. And if they make mistakes, that's great. Mistakes are learning's best friend. It means that you challenge yourself. It means that you're not trying to keep everything really easy. It means that you're in the zone of what we as teachers call the zone of proximal development. It's the zone in which you're trying new things and therefore making lots of progress. Reading is never about being completely correct and accurate. It's more about having a try, having a go, having a guess, and having a talk about it. Children at this age need, experts say, between 12 and 13 hours sleep per night. During sleep, your brain processes information from your working memory to your long-term memory, which is at the back here. And it's so important that the children get in the sleep that they need so that they don't get behind in school. Don't let your child get behind other children just because they've not had enough sleep at night. The other thing that's really important is to make sure that your child's brain is properly hydrated. Just give them pure water and milk and their brains will be ready to learn. As far as the mechanics are concerned, the first two are listening and talking. Is your child a good listener? Are you a good listener? Do you model good listening for your child to copy? It's really important that children can listen to one another, to you, and take part in a conversation. And to be able to listen as well to different sounds so that they can distinguish between one sound and another. You can play games to help them with this. One game is to walk down the street and just be able to identify as many different sounds as you can. Cars, people, gates slamming, birds singing, the rush of wind in the trees. Another game is a blindfold game where you sit in the kitchen and see if they can guess what sound you're making by switching on the tap, turning on the kettle, closing a cupboard door, or clanking two spoons together or something like that. But listening is really key for children to pick up phonics, as well as being good listeners for learning generally. Talking is so important because language structure and vocabulary are the bedrock of learning to read and to write. And the children who are not talking are tending to be way behind in their learning from other children. So it's important that you spend as much time talking with your children as you possibly can. And I'm not asking you to find some extra time in the day because I know everybody's busy. But when you're walking home from school, when you're giving them a bath, when you're having a meal together, they're the times you're with them anyway. Just talk, talk, talk. So talk is for writing, talk is for reading, talk is for learning in general. The next foundational skill that I want to talk to you about is nursery rhymes. Children who can rhyme pick up phonics faster than those who don't. Research shows us that quite clearly. If you don't know many nursery rhymes, you can easily buy a DVD or look online, and the children will be learning rhymes at school too. There are lots of books with nursery rhymes in them and lots of reading books that are rhyming in terms of their text. Lots of really good examples, and children will learn to love them. And the idea is that when you're speaking a rhyme, like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You, just delay at the end so that the child can fill in the rhyme.
Was too chatty.
Trevor? Hattie and chatty rhyme.
They do, well done.
The next foundational skill is using environmental print. We live in a print-saturated society. Print is literally everywhere. But something called logographics really appeals to children. For example, most 2 and 3-year-olds can read McDonald's or Asda or Aldi or Kit Kat. And it's the shape, the colours and all of the things surrounding those logos that help children to latch on to reading. And it's something that we can have a lot of fun with when children are first learning to read. because they can read whole words, and they're words often that they're interested in. So the next time you go to the supermarket with children, could you play a game? Could you go up and down the aisles spotting which words, which logos the children can read and understand? Or even make a scrapbook at home of a reading alphabet book, so that the B page might have a packet of buttons or the paper off a baked bean tin, so that they can start to build up a huge bank of logographic words that they can read. It helps them get into print. The last foundational skill for reading is context cues, or reading for meaning. In school, children will spend a huge amount of time focusing on phonics, which is really important. But you can't read English just by relying on phonics. There are other cues, like the context cue, that are really important to help children to use when they come across a word that they don't know. And we all use context cues as adults or children to decipher text. Let me show you what I mean. Let's look at this sentence here as an example. A child might read this: Granny took her spade and went to the, and then get stuck on this word. They know it starts with a g sound, but they don't know which word it is. You could sound it out, because garden is a word that you can sound out. Or you can go to the context cue and you can say to them, let's read the whole sentence and have a guess at what you think that word might be. So, Granny took her spade and went to the garage to weed the flower beds. Doesn't sound right, does it? Let's try again. Granny took her spade and went to the garbage to weed the flower beds. No, you don't weed flower beds in the garbage. Let's try one more time. Granny took her spade and went to the garden to weed the flower beds. Yeah, that makes sense. Now I want you to understand that context is something that even we as adults have to use all of the time, because phonics just isn't sufficient. Have a look at these two sentences, have a read. The first one is particularly hard. The soldier decided to desert his dessert in the desert. Isn't English bonkers? The soldier decided to desert. Now this dessert and the dessert at the end look exactly the same. They have exactly the same letters, but they're completely different words. The soldier decided to desert his dessert. Now we've got two words that sound the same, but the second one is spelt differently. And the only way we can work out which dessert means which is to use context cues. It's to read for the meaning. How to choose a really good book. This is really important, because if you're going to spend time with your children exploring literature, then use the best if you can. Good quality literature is a book that has illustrations that match the text. There's probably only 1 or 2 sentences per page, and the writing is really large so that children can easily read it. Here in my shop here on Canal Road, we have lots of good books like this one. This is one of my favourites. It's called Vegetable Glue. The illustrations match the text really closely, and they help the children to read when they're trying to work on it independently. When my right arm fell off, I knew what to do. I stuck it back on with vegetable glue. It's intriguing, it's funny, it makes you want to read more. The illustrations match what the text is saying exactly, and there's lots of sub-stories going on in the text as well. On every page this little dog does something different. There's lots to talk about. In poor quality books, and that tends to be books that follow TV programmes or films, they tend to have too much text because they weren't written by authors who knew what they were doing when they were writing for children who were just learning to read. The text on here is far too wordy, there's far too much of it, it's too small, and the book is far too long. This is the kind of thing to say for bedtime for you to read to your child, but they can't work on a book like this because it's far too much for them. Quality books tend to be quite expensive if you're buying them new, but there's always the library. Your school might have a library, and My children, when they were little, we just used to go around charity shops and buy them all second hand, and we got lots of great books that way for not very much money. This is the last section of the video, and it's all about sharing a book well once you're working with your child. It's a bit of a tick list, so here goes. First of all, manage distractions. TV off, radio off, and please turn off your phone and show your child that this is just about you and them, just for 10-15 minutes. Pay them your full attention. Let the child choose a book, or you choose a book in turn, and let the child hold the book and take control. Cuddle up, make it a special time, and be calm. Be as calm as you can. Use book language. So talk about the title, the author, and maybe the synopsis on the back. If it's a non-fiction book, look at the contents page and talk about the index and maybe some new words that the child might come across. Often, because this text is so simple, we can get a more full and more richer story by being able to read the pictures as well. Picture cues help children remember certain words, so please don't ever cover the pictures up. They're not cheating by using the pictures. It's a really essential tool for them. After you've had a time working with your child, talking through the book, reading it to them, sharing lots of discussions with them so that they understand the book's meaning, I would then invite in the next session for your child to share the book to you or read it to you, just using the pictures and telling you the story back to you. That would really help them to understand the text and make sure that that meaning is solid. After that, maybe the next day, it's time for them to start to read the book using the words. They're going to need a lot of support. Take your time, stay calm, and really help them by encouraging them and praising them when they remember something. Now, if they come across a word that they don't know, remember, if they can sound it out and it makes sense, a word like hat, at, then help them to do that. Help them to sound it out using the phonetic knowledge. If the word is something that they can't sound out, a word like said or who, don't forget we're going to guess the word in the context, see if we can read the whole sentence and check what that word might be. And if they can't guess, just give it to them so that we don't stop the flow of the reading. Children will want to read their favourite books over and over and over again. I remember my youngest son wanting to read Not Now, Bernard, about 60 times a week. But that's good. The more books they can memorise word for word, the quicker they'll get at becoming great readers. The most important thing of all is have patience, build their confidence, and have a great time together. Build those memories. That's the end of this film. I hope you found it useful. I hope you've picked up some good tips. And more than anything, I really want your child to be successful and to do really well. Give them a thumbs up from me.